A Year of Prophesying by H.G. Wells. The Creative Passion. Do men and women generally want a better world than this? Do they want a world free from war, general economic security, a higher level of general health, long life, freedom and hope for everyone? Beauty as the common quality of their daily lives? The conventional answer to that question, especially if you put it to a public meeting with the appropriate gestures, is of course they do. But the true answer is not much. They may do so when they read an inspiring book by the fireside or hear a rousing speech, but they do not do so all round the 24 hours, or indeed at any time when there is any possibility of helping to realize such generous desires. I write, but I should write we. For we all are much of the same quality. The tallest man in the world is not much more than twice the height of the shortest, and the crime for which the murderer dies is just a concrete realization of the saint's flash of anger. We are all but very little above egotism. Our passions are warm only when they are immediate. I do not believe there has ever been a man who has lived steadfastly, continuously, and completely in pursuit of great ends. We are all vain, amenable to flattery, stirred by physical impulses, by the competitive instinct and jealousy, by anger at opposition, liable to fatigue, irritation, and uncontrollable and sometimes quite unaccountable fluctuations of motive. Simple people like to believe there are great men in the world who are altogether above this tangle of drive and impulse. But indeed, there are no such divinities. What do we all find in our hearts? An immense self-love, a tremendous concentration of our attention upon our personal drama, physical cravings bare and physical cravings disguised and sublimated, desire to possess, desire for securities, and such like fear-begotten desires, a desire for praise and approval, and an instinctive dread of the disapproval and hostility of our fellow men, an aggressive pride and self-assertion so soon as fear is allayed. We find too imitative impulses, competitive impulses, jealousy. In most cases, there is also an extension of our egotism to cover our offspring, our dear ones, our friends and near kin. It is an extension of our egotism rather than a suppression of it. Is not that the drive and quality of most of our living? How much of that complex of motives can be used to bind men together into a civilized state? One can no doubt play upon their fears, represent the dangers of conquest and cruelty by hostile people so vividly as to make them fight and compel others to fight for them in great wars, rally them to the flag in a state of panic, fill them with that frantic distrust and hate of strangers, which is the basis of vulgar patriotism. With a little coercion, one may even get them to pay national taxes under the influence of these same mass fears. The human animal is a semi-social animal, and though you cannot stampede it, as the American bison used to be stampeded to rush over cliffs in a heaped herd suicide, or like the Russian lemming to swarm into the sea and be drowned, yet it can be got moving in masses for collective ends, either good ends or bad ends, in an only very slightly rational manner. But though these human motives I have cited so far do serve to keep us human beings together in smaller and larger communities with a sort of mutual restraint and help and tolerance, they supply no real force for any progressive betterment of human relations. and still less do they supply any driving force to organize and maintain a higher order of civilization throughout the world. As soon as the mass urgency subsides, we tend to relapse into our own little personal lives of eating, drinking, and having a good time, of getting on, of posing to ourselves and others, of thinking and talking ourselves into agreeable states of self-approval, of doing pleasantly spiteful things to people we dislike. And if there is nothing more in our human composition than these common impulses of the everyday life, this coarse stuff of our common humanity, then all our talk and writing about a world peace and a higher civilization is just dream stuff and nonsense. If that is all we are, then we have no more chance of escaping more wars, more famines and disorders, cruelties and diseases than a trainload of hogs bound for Chicago has of escaping the stockyard. None of the hogs may like the journey to the stockyard or their experiences when they get there. That does not help them in the slightest degree to escape their destiny. But there is something more in humanity than this, and it is this something more that transfuses all our life, our politics, our business, and social organization with the color of romance and the quality of a great adventure. Let me take two common incidents to show the kind of something more that I mean, the something more in which all our hopes reside. It is night on the embankment of a river that flows through a great city, and a commonplace youngster leans over the parapet, watching and thinking. Great warehouses, tall buildings, a tower or so, 3 or 4 graceful bridges, one beyond the other, set with bright lights and bearing a luminous traffic, drop their images into the stream, and each light they bear makes a long, slightly wavering reflection upon the smooth black water. A little steam launch, just blackness and a red headlamp, fuzzes by. As it passes, it tears through these tranquil banks of lamp reflections, drags a trail of startled and trembling shreds of light behind it, flings them apart, elongates them, reunites them, weaves them into a dancing pattern that changes every moment into a fresh intricacy. Splash, splash, splash comes the impact of the little boat's wash against the embankment. The youngster, struck with a strange wonder of beauty, watches these changes, tries to follow them, tries to detect the law of their dexterous, wonderful rearrangements. All the heat and egotism of his personal life are forgotten. He is lifted outside all our everyday scheme of motives. He is possessed by the desire to know and understand. Every one of us has had such moments of pure mental desire. For most of us, they pass. We are too busy and preoccupied. Some few of us they seize upon and make into those devotees of inquiry, men of science. Now take my second instance. A row of yards behind a row of mean houses in the same great city. Scarcely one of these yards is neglected or purely utilitarian, and more than half of them are evidences of effort to make some sort of garden or arbor or such like pleasant and orderly arrangement. You rarely see people playing in these yards or resting in them. They are overlooked by a railway and very noisy, but nevertheless, there you have the plainest evidence of an impulse to order and make, the rudiment of the garden-making, house-building impulse. In most of these yards, it has been an unprofitable, useless, and perhaps disappointing effort, but it has been at work there. In nearly every man and woman, there is something of the same garden-making, arbor-building impulse. Here again is a second impersonal motive to which we can turn from the personal and jealous passions that commonly possess us. It is an ennobling motive. Witness the face of a skillful painter or carpenter intent upon his work. Now, this desire for knowledge and the impulse to make are the really hopeful creative forces in human life. They are the something more and the something different on which I base all my hopes. Submerged and undeveloped, overridden by competition, fear, jealousy, vanity, they are yet to be found in nearly all of us. The aim of true education is to release them, nourish them, give them power and the possibility of cooperation. In this possibility lies our sole hope that the ultimate fate of mankind, now packed in its nationalist trucks upon the railroad of nationalism, warfare, and economic selfishness, will not be the same as that of those hogs upon their way to Chicago.